Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to Real Inspection Services. This is your host, Chuck Ryan, here to discuss all things regarding your home and the home inspection industry. Hey everyone, Chuck Ryan with Real Inspection Services. Welcome to our podcast. So today we're going to talk about what do you do when you find your dream home. So the next step is to hire a good, credible home inspector. And there's several of them out there. There's a couple of ways you can go about doing this. You can, one, the agent that you have chosen to work with, you can ask them for a referral. Now, typically, the realtor will provide you with 3 referrals. In some cases, 2. Your other option is to check with family and friends or coworkers. Those connections are also a good resource because they have at some time or another have worked with a home inspector. So start with a good, credible home inspector. That's the key thing. So you found a home inspector, you made a call. A couple things you can start with is ask to speak with the home inspector. There are some companies that have multiple inspectors. Obviously, it's always good to get a name. Just be aware that if you want to work with a specific home inspector at a certain time of day, they may not be available for that. There are a lot of good inspectors out there, and if they're that good, there's going to be a huge demand for them. You are going to have to work around their schedule, and if you can't come to an agreement on the schedule for the day and the time, you can ask for a reference within that company. So that's a key thing. But talk to the inspector. That's your first step. So you found your inspector, and there's a couple of questions you can ask. The first question would be is how long you've been doing home inspections, what's your process, do you guys offer ancillary services besides the standalone inspection. Again, just as a reminder, some of the bigger companies will have an operations manager that may answer the phone like we do. Her name's Jane Doyle, and she is fantastic. She does smile through the phone, and I mean that literally. So ask those questions. Do you want a standalone inspection? And then what other ancillary services do they have if you decide to add, let's say, radon, sewer scoping, air quality test, water test? These are things that we offer within our company, and we're excited to soon be offering chimney scoping. So we're excited about that. Obviously, these are things that add to the cost of the home inspection, and that's what the standalone inspection will have its own cost affixed to it, but then the ancillary services will have other costs attached to it. So just make sure you're clear on what the total cost is for the inspection. When you're getting the inspection, there are a couple of things that you should consider, especially doing just the typical standalone inspection. The one thing that we always recommend is a sewer scope. And the reason a sewer scope is important is because you can't see what's going underneath the ground. And we have a fiber optic camera that can go in through the sewer pipe from the house out to the municipal sewer. And you would be amazed on what that camera can pick up. And it's important because there could be cracks in the sewer line. There could be tree roots that have grown in through the pipe joints that can obstruct the flow of the waste, the water going out to the municipal sewer. That can cause a huge backup. If there is a crack in the sewer line, it's important because that sewer line can collapse, and that could be detrimental. So it's important to get a sewer scope. I cannot stress that enough. We've actually had homeowners bypass the sewer scope part during the inspection as we're out there doing the inspection. And there's one property that comes to mind. We were flushing a toilet, and we noticed that the toilet was gurgling and bubbling. We went up to another section of the house, and it was doing the same thing, which was a clear indication to us that there was some type of an obstruction in the sewer line. So guess what they did? They ordered the sewer scope that day, And luckily, we had one of our inspectors who had the camera on site. He was able to perform that, and we found a huge obstruction in the sewer line. So that saved them actually, it saved them around $800 to $1,000 because that line needed to be rotted. So again, check with the company what ancillary services that they offer. Our company is a one-stop shop. That's the key thing. We offer everything right then and there, so it's up to the client to make that decision. The other thing that is obviously important too from a health standpoint is considering getting a radon test. Radon is a colorless, odorless gas. It's a natural reoccurring gas. It's something that occurs in the home, and it should be checked to see what your levels are. The other thing is radon, being that it's odorless and tasteless, it's one of those things, if it's out of sight, out of mind, people don't pay particular close attention to it, but it is the second leading cause of lung cancer, that gas. During your inspection, that is a process where a monitor is left inside the home, usually in a basement. If there is a crawl space in the home, it's usually above that level area, that livable area where the crawl space is, and the monitor is left in the home for 48 hours. By the way, the homeowner is made aware of this, so the agents make them aware that there is a radon test that's going to be completed. These monitors are small. They don't take up much space at all, and you wouldn't even notice that they were there. So the monitors are left inside the home for 48 hours, and there are a couple things you can do. The first thing is if you decide to do the radon test, you can get that done 2 days maybe before the inspection, because again, that has to be in the house for 48 hours. When the home inspection is done on that day, the inspector can get the readings from the monitor left in the home the day of the inspection. Sometimes it works out that way. The other times, typically it's set up during the inspection process, and then it's picked up 2 days later. And all results are instantaneously. So once the monitor is shut off, they'll have the results that day. So that's important. If you don't know about radon, do Google radon. There's tons of information that explains what radon is. And real simply, it's a natural reoccurring gas. It's everywhere. It's in all homes. The EPA recommends that homes be fixed if the radon level is 4 picocuries per liter or more. And that's the unit of measurement that they determine the levels of radiation that is inside the home. So you decided to do the home inspection. You've added these services. You show up to the property. So typically we'll have 2 inspectors. That helps with the efficiency and the process of the inspection if it's a home larger than 2,500, 3,000 square feet or more. You meet your inspector. What the inspector is going to do once you meet out in front of the home, whether it's what we call the driveway pitch or inside the house, maybe at the kitchen, is the inspector will go over again how the process is of the inspection. They will let you know what their process is. We always encourage people to participate in the inspection, but we do understand that you're there in your home, you're excited, you might be looking at where your playroom's going to go for your kids, where that big screen TV is going to be installed. So we get that. We get that you might be there measuring, taking measurements, looking at the house again, spending a little bit more time going through each room. As the inspection starts, we typically will start outside. If there's one inspector, they'll explain we go clockwise and then we come back counterclockwise around the home. The reason we do that twice is so we're not missing anything. And then the roof inspection is completed then at that same time as the inspector is outside. Then what we will do is move inside and start from the top to the bottom. The reason we start on top for us is because if there's any leaks, most bathrooms are on the second floor, we can then check the ceiling, whether it's in the kitchen, the dining room, wherever the bathrooms are above. We do have tools. We have a thermal camera that we use on all our inspections. We have moisture meters, and that gives us time to kind of check to see if there's any leaks that have occurred. Usually water comes down. In some cases, it can go up. I'm not going to get into that, but usually it's important for us to do that instead of starting in the basement and working our way up. So then we move down to the first floor, hit the kitchen, get the kitchen appliances. If there's laundry there on that level, we'll do that. But generally, most laundry equipment is in the basement. Once we complete the first level, we will then make our way to the basement. That's where the electrical panel box is, the heat source, the water heater. That's where all the goodies are. It gives us a visual observation if the basement isn't finished to look at the structural components of the home, make sure that there's no foundation cracks, look at the flooring, and just, again, also sometimes there could be a crawl space that's off to the side of the basement, whether it's through an opening or if it's actually open to the basement, and we will crawl in those areas. That's typically what the inspector will lay out, and that's typically the flow of our inspections. If there's 2 inspectors on our job, again, one will start outside, the other one will start on the top floor. I did fail to mention attic access. We will go up in attics and observe the condition inside the attic space. Some attic spaces are walkable, some are not walkable, but we do everything we can to observe the interior conditions of an attic. Also, some attached garages will have attic spaces too. There's no stone left unturned during our inspection process, and that's what we explain to the buyer. We let them know this is our process. If during the inspection there is a condition that warrants an immediate attention, we will get the buyer, if they're not there at the time we observe that condition, we will bring them to that part, we'll show them what that problem is, and we'll tell them that this needs immediate action. So once the inspection is completed, we will have a conclusion, or what we call the Q&A. So the Q&A is our questions and answers. This gives the client the time to ask us questions based upon our findings during the inspection. So we'll let them know what the important items are of the inspection. We do and are aware that there could be some minor things. We focus on what the major things are, what the cost expenses could be, what and if there are any health and safety issues with the home. So we then just give them a chance to ask us any questions, and it's typically, well, what do we do next? Or how do we proceed from here? How important is this to get this fixed? We're not afraid to give budgets of a cost. We don't give estimates attached to our reports. We do have a tool builder that's provided in our reports that helps the buyer and their agent navigate through the costs, and that's something that we can help them out with. But I really want to emphasize this. These are budgets. These are not estimates. If they were estimates, we would be the contractor going in there to make the repair. So just so you're aware, it's okay to provide a budget. I know some home inspectors don't like doing that, and they would say defer to a specialist, whether it's an electrician or a plumber, to get those costs. I've been doing this long enough to know that it's okay to provide a budget. So you've had the report review with your home inspector. You feel comfortable with everything that the inspector had found. So now it's time for you to go to work with your agent. You had felt comfortable with the home inspection. You have the findings from the home inspection, what the home inspector had provided you. You have your report. Once you sit down with your agent to put together your want list, you then have that option to take that want list and go back to the seller. And that's where your buyer's agent comes in and helps you with the negotiation part of it. We will always keep an open relationship even after the inspection is completed. We were there for 3 or 4 hours. It doesn't end there with us. We encourage all our clients to call us if there's ever any questions regarding their home. We don't care if it's a year or two. We don't care if it's the first week you move in there and something had come up. We encourage them to call us. We encourage you to call us. And we stress that at the end of the inspection as well. So we'll always keep that relationship open. And that's what's allowed us to build our successful group here at Real Inspection Services. So I look forward to sharing and spreading more knowledge about the home inspection process. See you then. Thank you again for tuning in to Real Inspection Services podcast. If you have any questions regarding your home or our services, please reach out to us at realinspectionservices.com. If you would like us to answer any of your questions on the podcast, send us a DM on Instagram at Real Inspection Services. All info is down below in the show notes.